All right, hello. Welcome to Parenting on Purpose. We are excited for this session here. We're going to be doing...
we're here.
We're here.
We're here.
I'm actually like way more nervous about this than I am like speaking on a Sunday morning.
I did notice, and we didn't actually talk about this, but we went for an opposite vibe.
Yep.
I was like, hey, I'm at home with the kids all day, so I'm going to do my hair for a second. And
I was like, hey,
said,
can you bring me a sweatshirt?
Bring me a comfortable sweatshirt. So...
Oh, man. But we're having fun. We're going to have fun tonight. We are going to hopefully get a chance to be able to support each other, encourage each other,
yes,
and equip each other as parents during this time. That's really what the purpose of Parenting on Purpose is, for us to be a support system for each other, for us to be able to encourage each other, for us to be able to really not shy away from the fact that we believe that these sessions are going to hold good advice and good guidance for all of us, no matter where we're at. But we're also not going to shy away from the fact that we want to help our kids find and follow Jesus, right? That's like a cornerstone of what we believe parenting needs to look like. So we're going to talk a lot about that and pointing our kids to Jesus and helping them to find and follow Jesus, not just now, but hopefully as adults as well. And so we've got... You wanted to kick us off, though, with like a fun...
Yeah, so part of the fun of parenting is that when you're in the trenches, you find yourself saying things or doing things that I remember even as like a teenager or older elementary age kid thinking, like, why would my mom say that? Why would my dad do that? That's so embarrassing. And yet I find myself repeating a lot of those fun phrases. Like, check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's
the classics.
That's a pretty big staple in our house.
You're cruising for a bruise and that type of a thing, right?
I say things like, oh, you said the one earlier, I'll give you something to cry about.
I heard that one, and then I've actually caught myself like midstream saying it, and I'll stop.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, I don't really want to say that one, but
real?
that one comes out.
Yeah. If you're in the chat, throw some on there that you heard or say, or you find yourself saying. I also say random things like, hey, don't climb on cars. And you have to have your shoes on when you're outside. No, you can't go potty outside. Things like...
Literally had to yell at Winston.
Yeah.
Get off the roof. Like,
he's a flight risk.
And it was a real thing that we were dealing with. I don't know how he got up there.
He's 3, if you don't know. Our kids are...
It was the twins roof of our getaway van, so it's only like 9 feet off the ground.
My favorite is that you were sitting right in front of it.
I couldn't see him.
I mean...
I didn't know where he was.
He's super sneaky,
until he said something to me, and I looked up. I'm like, hey!
Yes.
Anyway, these are like real things we've had to say. What else have we do we consistently, again, now the chat, we're hoping for some interaction with the chat here, right?
Right.
Part of the Parenting on Purpose of these sessions is hopefully that we can get some questions even from people watching, that we can kind of interact, hear some funny stuff from you. So if you've got a phrase that you found yourself using, or one that you heard your parents use that you've been bringing into practice here recently, go ahead and throw that on there.
I say things like, is that hurtful or is that helpful? And in the root of a lot of these things is because sometimes as a mom, when I'm home all day, especially right now, we're home all the time, no school break. We're in it. We're there together all day long. I have to kind of have like a little bit of a comical tone to it.
Yeah.
Or it feels like it's just gonna get here really fast. Isn't that one of them?
Yeah, there's
here.
Oh yeah, I've had it up to here. I remember seeing a stand-up comedian when I was younger, and he's like, I wish mom would have given us more of a heads up. I've been like, I've had it up to here, so I knew how much room I had to go, like how much I could push.
And I can attest that sometimes it's in a matter of moments that it goes from here to here.
Oh man.
So meal times for me are the worst. They're the worst. It doesn't matter if it's breakfast. It doesn't matter if it's lunch or dinner. We did not make out to have picky eaters. And that happened. We fed them all the really healthy things, and they chose just to stop eating. So
it could be because I'm kind of a picky eater.
I guess so, but you just get into survival mode a little bit. Like, sure, what did you want? This sounds great. But everybody gets up multiple times and complains about the same thing that they had yesterday. If you feel that way, right now comment, because I'm going to send you a gift card to coffee, okay? If you have fed your child macaroni and cheese or peanut butter and jelly or peanut butter and honey in our house, and tomorrow when you give it to them...
I don't like macaroni and cheese.
What? You actually just asked for this.
You've been eating it for months now.
This is one of the 3 things that you eat. Oh. So I find myself becoming Disney villains very quickly. And again, to stay comical and light with our children, I often sing out their most famous villain songs. I do love singing, and so it's just kind of a fun way for me to not just feel angry.
Like what? Like what are some of the songs that you...
I don't know. I mean, the first that usually kicks off is, like I'll be saying something like, "Mother knows best.
Oh yeah.
Listen to your mumsy." Okay, so that's one for sure when they're asking.
Okay, I've heard you do the one.
The Beast.
That's the when they're really complaining about the food.
Yes, when Belle doesn't want to come to dinner, and if you don't know Disney, if you don't know your Disney,
this is not going to really resonate.
It's not
going to.
But for the rest of you that are in that mode right now, this is gonna you're gonna feel this so much. I get that, the Beast wants Belle to come to dinner, and she's like, "I'm not coming out." And he said, "Fine, then you can starve." I kind of feel like that sometimes. The scar when someone talks back at the dinner table.
What are you gonna do?
I feel like that. Be prepared. Okay, what was the other one that keep eating instead of keep singing. No, Ursula.
Oh,
I told you it's
keep eating.
I told you it's villains. It's a villain.
When she's trying to steal Ariel's voice. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, okay.
Oh, man. So Kaylee goes to villain songs. I tend to be the king of the sarcastic rhetorical question with the kids. Like, that's somehow going to help the reasoning session.
And when there's another adult around, it's fun to watch. It's not super helpful for kids.
It's not. And especially... our poor Declan, because he's a literal thinker. So when I start throwing rhetorical questions out there, and then he goes to answer it, and I'm like, I don't really want you to answer. He's like, well, then why would you ask?
Oh my goodness, he's so funny.
This is just real. Essentially.
Should I say the road one really quick, or are we going to save that fun one for later?
Which one? The road one?
Declan.
Oh man, you should tell. That was a great interaction.
Another mealtime. And I'm sorry if you're thinking like this parenting on purpose thing is all about annoying things kids do at mealtime. It's not, but that's a lot of the root of evil. So, the one for me is, again, mealtime. He's getting real nasty with me. And so I said, "Hey bud, the road you're going down right now, the consequence, you're really not going to love that consequence." And it's like, he kind of sat up for a second. He turned and he's like, "Well, I'm going to back up off this road and take a different route."
So maybe it is sinking in. Every little, a little bit sinking in.
Maybe.
Essentially, all this, we had some parents that replied on here, peanut butter and the mac and cheese almost daily. The kids not loving it. But hey, we're all in the same boat here. We are not perfect parents. We're not going to try and pretend to be, as hopefully really what we're hoping to do is we're imperfect parents trying to point our kids to a perfect God.
Right.
I mean, that's essentially that we know we can't be that perfection for our kids, but hopefully we can point them towards God and his perfect goodness, and they can experience that through him. So we want to do our best to be guides to really kind of bring them to the shepherd and the one who can truly heal and help them grow and become the type of human beings that he created them to be. But we're all in the same boat. And so there is no shame
and that
here.
boat might be playing the Titanic violin song at the end. You could feel
like the ship is sinking right now, and you're in the right place if that's the case. You got some shared company probably online here, and Kaylee and I definitely feel it sometimes. But we would love to hear maybe some things that you're like, "Hey, I'm wrestling with this. I'm having trouble with this." Throw them up in the chat. It gives us a chance to maybe talk about them tonight, or even to address them in some of the future sessions and stuff.
And in the future, we have kids that are 8. The twins are 8. Henry's going to be 6 soon, and a 3-year-old. We've been in kids ministry for 10 years. We're now a part of the associate team, but we've just lived life with cousins and family and friends. Like, we know we don't have all the answers, but in this journey of parenting on purpose, we're also going to invite other parents in different phases of life to also share knowledge, experience, funny stories.
Handling the tween years, the teen years.
So angsty.
Yep. Working towards adulthood, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So hopefully this will be fun and helpful tonight or today, depending on when you're watching this. We are going to be in this session, we're talking about developing a plan and essentially the idea that our kids, they don't just fall into the type of people that we're hoping that they will be, but that it really takes a plan. It takes being on the same page as each other. It takes consistency to really help them get to where we hope that they will be eventually down the road. Proverbs 22:6 says, direct your children onto the right path, and when they're older, they will not leave it. This is a proverb, not necessarily like a promise, because here's the deal. We know some parents that have directed their kids on the right path, and their kids still, they become adults and they get to choose, right? Yeah. And sometimes they do veer off that path. And we've seen other parents that traditionally we'd look at them and go, man, I don't think they're very good parents, but their kids turn out great. So,
and this is not a parent shaming class,
no,
by the way.
Not at all.
But in the research of just wanting our kids to follow Jesus, one of the things that we've personally done is talk to people that we really respect that have either older kids or grown kids or kids that have their own kids now that, have gone through this stage of life. And one of the things that we've asked them is, how do you do it?
Yeah.
How does this happen?
How did you consistently you point your kids on the right path and point them in the right direction, point them towards Jesus so that they have stuck to it? Because we believe that there is truth to this proverb. It might not be a promise, but there is truth to it. That if we have a plan for where we want our kids to go and we are constantly pointing them towards Jesus, because hopefully that's ultimately where the plan leads, that they will see that. And the thing is, it has to happen continually. It doesn't just happen from saying the things we hope our kids will be. It doesn't just happen by occasionally. It happens by really what this proverb is saying is like constantly directing our kids. Yep. Yeah.
And it also naturally comes from a desire to have relationship with your kids. All of our kids are so different in their little personalities already. Matt and I are very different, and yet we have a lot of similarities, and we look at them and try to encourage them in each thing that we know they really are, maybe do well or come easily to them. And then the things that are more challenging, that's where these plans come in. Even homeschooling, for instance, or home distance learning. We're not homeschooling, but it's feels like homeschooling sometimes. Shout out to Livingston. Thank you. But one of the things, even for us, for an example, for a plan is Matt will help get everybody going in the morning. I'll open tabs up for where I know people are supposed to be going. Declan is very good at math, but he does not love writing. I love writing. So for me, it's a natural thing for me to sit down with him, talk out what that looks like, why we write, what's creative about it. He loves reading, so it's just that piece of it. Eva maybe needs more help with math. Matt is great with math. One of the things that he gets to do with her is help her go through her math. These simple things where taking time to do schoolwork, even social distancing, is a lot. The amount of work to do this, what the proverb says, is more work for us. It's more sacrifice on a parent's part. But also, when you start to put that into action, they see that more because it's something that you're doing, not just saying.
Yeah, and the doing is, one of the things Kaylee and I have talked about a lot about, one of the big picture hopes and plans that we have for our kids is that we will have good relationship with them when they're older. And that we hope that as they become adults, that we are able to maintain being an influence in their life, being parents, but also kind of morphing into that friendship and being there and having it be that they still long to have relationship with us. Well, we know that plan doesn't come to fruition without us doing things about that now, about being on the same page with each other for how we're going to do that, being consistent in how we do that. Essentially, the idea figuring out, so what does it look like to get there? Well, it means investing in our kids now. It means making it so that they know we are interested in them and who they are and the things they're interested in. Because if I'm not interested in them now, why would they be interested in me later?
And they can see that.
Yeah.
They can see when you're scrolling, like when it's a day where I'm really sucked into social media, or I'm really occupied on my phone by doing projects or looking things up, or even just communicating with people that I need to communicate with, text message. They absorb that, they notice that, they sense that. And I'm not saying it's not realistic to just not have your phone out all day, right? Like these things are not realistic. And if you're a single parent, this is extra challenging for you. We don't pretend to think that we know what that's like, but we know that still means being consistent with your own game plan, right? Like if I have an empty threat to my kid, if I say, if you do that again and I have to come up and, come and help you and you're going to have a timeout, but I never follow through with that timeout, like they're smart. They know that's okay, sure, Mom. Yeah, sounds good. You do that. But if I have to get up from what I'm doing because they are standing there disobeying me, it takes more work for me to go, okay, it's time for you to go sit on your bed. You're going to have a timeout. Whatever the consequence is, the follow through has to be there. Yep. And especially with, spousal support,
we have to be on the same page.
Have to be on the same page. And we know that's not realistic with everybody. And that could be part of where you're struggling right now. And
that's the hope, is that even some of the conversation night would spur you towards trying to make that a reality. It may seem like it's an unrealistic thing that you are going to get on the same page as your wife or your husband, as your grandparent, like mom and dad, your kids' grandparents that are helping you raise the kids, whatever, whoever it is. But getting on the same page, talking through some of these plans. So if Kaylee and I have conversations about the things we hope for our kids to be now and as they grow up, and then Kaylee sees me being inconsistent in trying to bring that about, then she's able to say, hey, we've talked about how we want this for our kids, or we want this to be a reality for our kids, but doing this or not doing this, that it's not going to make that happen, right? So it's so important. We're constantly having conversations about these things, about our expectations for each other, about the hopes for our kids, because we have to keep those things at the forefront of our minds and in conversation in order to be able to see the fruit of the investment. Yep.
I just was going to say, pardon me, one of the ways that for us is ironically inconsistent before is family devotional time, which, as a former children's pastor, you should be.
Right, it should be. It seems like that should be easy. Right? It should be just a no-brainer. Just comes naturally.
And that's not a knock on him. It's just a reality of how the day goes sometimes, right? We go throughout the day, and yes, we talk about scripture, we talk about biblical principles, but it's just
having that carved out time that we sit down and
I can't imagine opening my Bible with my 8-year-old and logically walking through a scripture to where they understand all the time what's happening. Because I don't always understand what's happening. But that shouldn't make you not want to do it.
No, but sometimes it's unrealistic to do this. Sit down and just read through the book of James with our kids, the kids of our age. Obviously, as they get older, we're hoping to be able to do more of that type of a thing.
And there's different opportunities as they're older.
But we've expressed that this is something we want. We want our kids to find and follow Jesus. We want them to nurture their relationship with Jesus. We want them to develop a personal relationship with Jesus, which means that they have to get to know who God is. They have to get to know His Word. And so we've talked about that's a hope. That's something we want to see. That's the plan. So then we have to get on the same page for carrying it out, being consistent in actually putting it into practice.
If you have littles to probably about the age 5, I would say, would you say?
The Jesus Storybook Bible.
Jesus Storybook Bible. You can find that on Amazon. It's a great kind of introduction to some really pivotal stories. Right now, our kids are into this one.
Yep.
We're not selling these. You can buy these on Amazon. These are just tools that we're just trying to be.
Finding something like this can really help.
Pastor Ashley, I know, has definitely resources as well. As the kids get older, obviously we hope that they get involved in youth and the junior high ascent at some point.
So essentially,
one of the things that you just have to decide, though, as a family is, I can't wake up tomorrow and think like, oh yeah, my kids are going to follow Jesus because I do. And so anything that I do, they're going to definitely do. No, I have to invest in their lives now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we've had to discipline ourselves in this area, and we've had to say, okay, you know what? We're going to get to, there we go. That was perfect. Just ask the question about what recommended for the devotionals.
Brittany, I'm going to send you that link. There's 2 of those, and then, like I said, the
Jesus Storybook Bible
is
brings
really
everything
good
back
too.
around to Jesus. It's
Love
so great. And we've had to go, you know what? There's nights where it rolls around, it's time for bedtime, and we're ready for them to go to bed, right? We're ready. They're maybe up past their bedtime. They have been having a really hard day, and we're just
Pastor
ready for
Ashley
them to go to sleep.
did just say she's got some available too.
Perfect. And we've had to stick to the plan though, and we've had to be consistent. We've had to hold each other accountable to it and say, hey, we need to read this tonight. We need to do this together as a family. We need to stay consistent with this with our kids. And it's hard to do sometimes, but we believe in the fruit that will bear down the road.
Absolutely. And they'll get it. They start to want to do that. They start to want to learn. And one of the things that they will start emulating is being able to just have that in them. And when they're around people again, whenever we can do that, is that goodness and that structure that we've started to put into place just starts happening naturally.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out a couple questions here. We've got some questions maybe coming over here, but I have a question for us of so how do we go about typically having those planning same page type conversations? How do they typically come, or what are some ways that they come up, do you think, for us?
Oh, was this one that we were supposed to have?
Was this a planned? No, sorry, I'm asking.
Was this a planned one that we were supposed to answer?
I asked a question, then this is maybe one of my rhetorical questions I asked, but I'm the one that's got the answer here. No.
Great.
I was going to say a couple different ways, I think.
Go ahead and answer your question.
I'm going to answer the question. So it's not really a question for you. It's a question for everybody. So how do we go about having these conversations, these planning and same page conversations? Yeah, well, sometimes that's what happens.
Right.
But I was going to say sometimes they come because it's like glaring us in the face, like a problem arises basically, whether it's our kids' behavior or something we see in each other. We're like, hey, like you can't do that anymore around the kids.
You can't sing villain songs. You're scaring them.
So sometimes they come up because it's like, hey, we have to address this.
Right.
Like we got to talk about this. We're not on the same page on this, obviously.
Okay, video games. There we go. Comes to mind.
Yeah.
I can already tell. You're like, oh, video games are great. This is what I'm talking about right here. There are responsibilities and things that we have in our house. And now that our kids are getting older, we think that they should help put away their laundry once it's folded. And they can help put their dishes in the sink. And they can help take out the trash. Just small chores, things that they need to do, make their bed. On top of schoolwork, which right now especially is really hard because they're looking at a screen a lot. So to me, I think, okay, let's go outside, let's get some fresh air. And then they're like, okay, I did everything. I'm ready for video games.
I'm ready for video games.
And if I say, I don't know, we'll see, Declan knows that's not a hard no. So he's going to go and ask Matt.
Oh, yeah. He'll come and ask.
He's going to say, Mom said, we'll see. Which to Matt goes, oh, yeah. You can play video games. That's great.
I would say that's my knee-jerk reaction, but because
especially when he says, do you want to play video games with me?
Because I'd love to play video games with him. But fortunately, Kaylee and I have had conversations and developed the plan for what that looks like, when it's okay. On school days, we're not going to do this. And we're not saying, we're not giving any advice here about what your video game approach should be.
Oh, no. This hair was done via video games, so.
But
they have their purpose.
We're able to be on the same page in even a small area like that, because we've had conversations about it. The video game thing comes up and we go, hey, so what does this look like? How often do we want our kids playing video games? We develop a plan, and then we have to, I have to carry that out. So Declan comes and says, hey, can I play video games? And we've developed a plan and strategy. I'm able to go, you know what, but I know today's not a video game day, so we're not going to do it. And sometimes you can tell he's like that, like, oh man, I was hoping I could get dad. I knew mom would say no, but I was hoping I could get dad.
And that's the classic, right? When parents get pitted against each other, unknowingly sometimes knowingly. Sometimes they like to be the hero. Sometimes there's an unhealthy dynamic happening where you haven't had the conversation to be on the same page. This is from anything, right? And so when a parent gets pitted against each other and you're the bad guy,
yeah,
it's not fun. It's not fun.
Sometimes
and if
you're
you're
just the fun dad. It's just
if you're the parent out there that gets pitted against, I feel for you. Another coffee coming your way. It is fun that you're the fun dad and that you're cool.
But in all seriousness, that's why we've had to have.
We do have real life conversations about making that happen.
Trying to have the conversations prior to it glaring us in the face, to try and to think ahead, actually, so that we can have those conversations before it becomes a problem, essentially.
Right.
And again,
if you're watching or you watch this later, would you send Matt or I a message or comment about some subjects that you guys are struggling with at home? This is not just us telling you about all of our.
Mr. Hernandez just said that he just said he'll make the Zooms longer because of the at-home learning difficulties. He's one of our kids' teachers. He's doing an amazing job.
Yes.
Kaylee's shout out to Livingston was a legit. We have been so happy with how they've handled the at-home learning, and
so much.
They've been amazing. It's so cool.
Yes.
That was a little side note.
Oh, love that.
Yep.
Yes, but really, conversations that you maybe are hoping to have in the future. We don't want to take a lot of time up tonight with you. We want to encourage you and have you know that you are not alone. This is a very challenging season, especially right now with everyone at home. We are very mindful of that. This takes more consistency and more conversations constantly happening. It sounds tiring, which is why my last thing personally is you have to take care of yourself. You have to find the balance with your spouse. That is a part of the plan. That is a part of what makes you a healthy parent. It helps you. And if you don't have that parental support, then that's where the grandparents are. That's where the aunt and uncle or the fun friend that's like there to support you. You need those people to even talk out like, hey, I'm having a really hard time. What does this look like? What are the things that we want to work on or have a plan for? And
that's why I will kind of close probably with like 2 notes here. One would be that the importance of not just taking care of ourselves, but our kids seeing us take care of each other.
Yeah.
That we model for our kids. Hopefully that they see that I love Kaylee first and foremost, and then we care for them, and wanting that to be something that they consistently grow up seeing. Because there's studies that say actually that, this isn't just seeing that, but talking about things. Our kids typically, it's like 7 times we have to hear something before it starts to sink in. And with kids, I think that basically resets every day. So it's like 7 times a day you have to talk about something or model something in order for it to really start to sink in and for them to get it. And so I think supporting each other, showing love for each other is so important. But then it begs the question of, what about single parent? What if I'm a single parent? Or what if I'm in a relationship, a marriage, my spouse I cannot get them to engage in the parenting the way that I am hoping or want them to, that I still think it is important of developing a plan, and it's important of being on the same page with yourself. That means that you're being consistent with your own plan, that you're following through, and that you are being consistent with your kids, that it's not...
You're leading yourself by example. And it sounds silly, but someone else will notice when you are saying something and then following through for yourself, and then that consistency starts happening with your kids. Your spouse or the person that you're with or the grandparent that helps, they start to pick that up. They start to notice
the consistent message.
And then honestly, they're most of the time they're going to go, oh yeah, well your mom said, so we want to follow through with this.
But if you're inconsistent, then it's hard for the kids, right? To know the boundaries, to know where you're headed as a family, or where it is you're hoping them to go, the boundaries, all those things. That being consistent, following through, not saying something or doing something one day and then kind of changing it up the next day and going all over, but developing that plan, being consistent with yourself
and being
on the same
honest with
page.
your kids, giving that plan to them direct, not setting them up to where they have the sarcastic rhetorical, they can't give the right answer.
That's true.
That is one thing that we are very consistent and concise.
So you're saying I shouldn't do that? You're saying I shouldn't? That's not helpful?
Right.
Okay.
Maybe
I want
not.
to make a note.
Right. But our kids appreciate the directness. They appreciate, even if they don't fully understand, they will someday. And so being able to be consistent and direct of why the reasons are. We always tell them that they're allowed to ask why. They need to obey first, and then they ask why.
Yep.
And that's a hard thing for parents. Like goes along with
because
that
I
opening.
said so.
I was just gonna say, because I'm the parent and you're the kid. Even if that's how you feel, there's a way to unpack that that they can understand, or they will begin to understand in a healthier way, because biblical truth says that kids need to obey their parents. And it's not, well, the Bible says that you're going to obey me and this is what I say. I mean, there are things that, buddy, we want to protect your mind and body, so we ask you to go to bed at 7:30 by 7:30 because we know how much rest your body needs. Yes, it's fun to stay up late. No, we can't do that all the time. Very simple answers, even though they take more time. That helps your kids get on the same page as you. That helps your spouse or your loved ones to get on the same page as you. Yeah. You ready to wrap this up?
I think so. So, unless do we have any questions coming in? There'll be a little bit of time if you wanted to throw something out on the chat here about topics that we're going to talk about. Discipline one of the weeks, and that's a big one, right? That's a big one. And we'd also love to hear some of the other things that you would like to hear about, maybe some of the things you're finding difficult as a parent right now, that maybe we can support each other in, encourage each other, and bring some people in that might be able to shed some light on those questions over the next few. We've got another one happening in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
So on the 21st of October, and then we have 2 more happening in November on the 4th and the 18th. And so there's going to be 3 more sessions, chance for us to have some of these conversations and interaction. But tonight, in summary, okay, so what we're talking about tonight, we're talking about figuring out where you want to go, where you want to end up, develop a plan and how to get there. This is sounds so simple, right? And the execution is much harder. Make sure you're on the same page with your spouse and the other, your parents, whoever it is that you are parenting with, and then be consistent in the message you want to communicate and the story that you want to unfold. And we think they're simple in word, but they can be hard to live
really
out.
Hard.
But think that they can be incredibly impactful in your family and your parenting if we find ways to implement these ideas, this advice, and kind of getting in there about planning, being on the same page, and all that good stuff. But I think we should close in prayer. Let's close in prayer tonight.
Go for it.
All right. God, thank you so much for giving us each other, not just each other as parents, but other parents around us. That really, as your church operates and functions the way it's supposed to, that we're able to be there for each other and to be able to support and encourage each other and find those that during frustrating seasons we can talk to and say, this is what I'm going through, and then have a listening ear and encouragement during other times, to have a friend that comes and says, hey, I think I'm seeing this in you, and I know that that's not the kind of parent you want to be. And just really that support system and the way that you have designed your church to function, we thank you for that. And we pray that you would help us to lean into that more in this whole parenting on purpose idea, and that you would give us the strength and wisdom to be able to seek your truth out, to dig into your word about the kind of parents you want us to be, the kind of families you want us to raise, and the ways that we can help our kids find and follow you. And we love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Again, throw out some questions or anything on the chat, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Next Wednesday, we are going to post kind of an example of one of those resources for family devotionals. So not just one of the books, but Pastor Ashley's been putting together some other resources that involve some activities that you can do as a family and some things like that to kind of get the ball rolling on maybe some of those family devotional times. So looking forward to that, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.